So good evening, everybody. So let's welcome our last speaker, Brian Curtin, and he'll be talking about what is Python Software Foundation, what does it do, and what are the objectives, and how we can help Python Software Foundation. So look, please give a big round of applause to Brian Curtin, please.
Thanks for coming, everybody. My name is Brian Curtin. I am a director at the Python Software Foundation. And kind of the reason I threw this talk together was I think the PSF has a little bit of a visibility issue past the surface of what the foundation is. I think a lot of people know that the PSF exists. I think they know a little bit about what it does. But I think not everyone's taking advantage of all the things that we provide. And there are a lot of people doing a lot of things that could help the PSF. That I think there's a disconnect that there's not a lot of perfect, great information out there. So, at a very high level, the PSF is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. That's kind of the boring part of my talk, but it's a nonprofit. It's a tax-exempt organization. It's donations to it are tax deductible. But the PSF, the core of it is the membership. People are members of this. There's also sponsor members. We're a collection of committees, which are put together of both PSF members and just general members of the community. So the foundation it's a lot of people. It's a nice organization that I think everyone can benefit from. So I hate reading directly from slides, but I'll do it for this one. So the mission of the Python Software Foundation is to promote, protect, and advance the Python programming language, and to support and facilitate the growth of a diverse and international community of Python programmers. So the PSF is there for more than just the user bin Python on your new MacBook. It's there for the core developers. It's there for the people writing Python, using Python, the people here at this conference. It's the big P Python, not just the code. It's for everybody. And so for promoting, something like PyCon is a great promotion for Python. We obviously, people who know Python are being shown the new stuff. There's a lot of great tutorials this year that have been focused on kids. Promoting it to kids, promoting it to people who are already programmers of other languages that want to learn Python. There's been a couple tutorials on getting people started from scratch. My younger brother was actually here a couple days ago to take a tutorial by Jessica McKellar, which was a really good time for him. Protecting the Python language is another one of the missions. And that kind of comes from intellectual property side of things, trademarks. If you've looked at the Python license, or it's actually the Python Software Foundation license, the PSF is behind Python for that. If you look into it, it's a very storied history of the license. Advancing is another part of the mission, and that's things with like funding development, funding some of these committees that I'll talk about later, just trying to push Python forward. And again, that's the Python community, and that's everything about Python. It's not just the core developers, it's not just the Python dev mailing list, it's everybody. So who is the PSF? PSF is a membership kind of based organization. There are individual members who are nominated by existing members in the foundation. They are typically people who have put together a lot of effort to promote, protect, and advance Python. They're core developers, they're people who have created web frameworks, they're people who have done lots of code-related things, they're community organizers, they're conference organizers, they're evangelists, they're people who are pushing the envelope and trying to make the Python world better. We also have sponsor members. These are organizations that use Python, like Python, and believe in the mission of the PSF and contribute to the PSF via donations, yearly donations. We're very thankful for all of them. We're always looking to expand there because they get a lot of great value out of Python. They download it for free and they build their entire organization on free software, and their contribution back to us is great. And we hope to give to them so they can continue. So I mentioned before about committees. So membership, just being a member of the PSF is just being a member. You're there, you've done your awesome work, you continue to do your awesome work, and that's membership. There's also committees, which are people who are putting together and building teams and doing the work for the PSF. So we have a couple committees like the Sprints Committee. This was formed a couple years ago that had the intention of getting funding to organizations and groups around the world who are doing development sprints. It was kind of a way to build communities and make sure they had funding or they had resources, they had documentation, or they had things to do for like a local user group to get together and hack for a weekend or hack for a night or something like that. The funding was originally targeted towards people making CPython better, but we kind of realized quickly that the PSF is, again, about the whole community, so we kind of changed the charter of the Sprints Committee to be about anyone who's making Python better through code. So that's when we kind of started open up. We funded PyPy sprints, we funded Django sprints, we funded people who want to make a new website for their user group. It's a really cool organization. It's a really cool committee, and people use the funding to buy things like food, rent meeting space. A couple have used it to kind of buy goodies. The Cape Town Python user group was one of the first groups that sprinted through us, or sprinted and used funding from us. I believe they made socks with the Python logo, and they've also made coffee mugs. And they're a really cool group because they were instrumental in having matplotlib ported to Python 3. They also ported the Genshi library to Python 3. And yeah, we bought them socks. So they were psyched to get out and work on code and have new socks. And I think that's awesome. And I think a lot of people could probably use new socks. They could probably also write a lot of fun code. So it's a great committee. We also have the Outreach and Education Committee. The name kind of says it all. It's kind of similar to the Sprints organization, the same layout that they use the funding for education and other community building workshop type things. If you're familiar with the Boston Python workshop, that model is kind of replicated in a lot of other places, and I'll list a couple of them later on that we've helped fund their workshops. And we buy them lunch, we get them meeting space. We're just one of the sponsors of a lot of those. The Trademarks Committee is another one. There's going to be some good news on that tomorrow. Van Lindbergh, our chairman, has been working very hard on this trademark situation, which you may have heard about. A company called Weber. We were in a kind of trademark dispute, and we have a Trademarks Committee that was working with all the documentation that the community had sent us in support of that. So the trademark people look after the Python logo, the Python wordmark. They kind of evaluate things like when people are making books or making a new T-shirt or making their new product, their new something on the web. They kind of pass it through the Trademark Committee to make sure they're not infringing on the trademarks that we have. Infrastructure is another big thing. Obviously, we have the Python website, the wiki. We have hg.python.org, our Mercurial repository. The Infrastructure Committee looks after those things. We've recently added 2 paid part-time system administrators to look after those things to make sure we're doing the best we can do. So that's a little bit about who the PSF is. It's people in committees, and it's people making Python better. So what do we actually do in some of those? And one of the goals is to kind of enable people to do and make Python better. Project grants are one of the big things that people end up taking advantage of with the PSF. We've received grants from, or received requests from Kivy, NLTK, and Pillow recently. Kivy is the kind of a multi-touch interface. We granted them a bunch of money to finish the Python 3 port. So soon enough, you'll have Kivy, you could write Android, iOS, all kinds of multi-touch stuff in Python 3, which we were very happy to approve for them. NLTK, very powerful natural language toolkit. A student, I believe, is working with the core team of NLTK, and we granted that student a sum of money to finish the port and get it merged in there, and they're working on that right now. Alex Clark of the Pillow team, and Pillow is a fork of Pill, the Python imaging library. I think this was about a week or two ago, we granted him some money so he could finish merging a bunch of pull requests that he had so that he could finish and release Pillow by PyCon. I haven't seen them. I'm not sure if that happened, but you'll hear about it soon. I know it's very, very close. Very happy to help them out. We've also funded things like the PyPy STM project that Armin Rigo is working on. There was a good grant for that. And in the past, we funded a lot of other things like Brett Cannon, one of the core CPython developers. After he finished his PhD and was about to start his new job, he took some time and we gave him a grant so he would work on putting together some excellent documentation. Our dev guide, docs.python.org/dev guide, is a great resource for getting set up with a development environment, understanding our processes, source control, getting all that stuff, getting a source build of Python working, and understand how to triage bugs, all kinds of stuff like that. That's very helpful, and that was a great grant for us to get something done and get something out there, and it's been instrumental in getting people set up. It's been very useful, not just on the Python dev mailing list, but on the core mentorship list, which is a mailing list that's kind of there to help people get started into core development. It's been the first response in most emails to, hey, if you want to get going, check this out. People check it out, and they're just diving right into code. So that was one of the another great grant that we were able to help Brett with. Conference grants are another thing that the PSF does to enable kind of growth and success in the Python community. In 2012, we funded 18 conferences in 15 different countries for a total of, I think, $33,000. The PSF obviously is a big part of PyCon, and we want to help out as many conferences around the world as we can. We end up sponsoring, like I said, those 18 conferences, just to make sure that they can do the awesome things that we could do here. Sponsorship in a lot of the smaller conferences around the world is much smaller to scale than if you saw the opening addresses. When the screens were filled, there was no white space. It's just solid names. The PSF's trying to help the smaller ones grow. And in 2013, we're actually doubling our contribution to all of those conferences. We have a little formula we figured out based on attendees. We give you some amount of money. We're doubling that for 2013. As the BSF has grown, Python's grown, conferences have grown, we're increasing our funding with that as well. Committee funding. So I've mentioned these kind of committees. The Sprints Committee and the Outreach and Education Committee have budgets so they can operate on their own and they can help people by themselves. They don't need to go through the board of directors or anything like that. I had to write this. I'm actually looking at notes right now because the list is way too big. The Sprints team gets a $5,000 budget, and we've had sprints in San Francisco twice for the Open Hatch team. Did a PyPy sprint in Germany, the EuroPython sprints after the conference. A user group in Breckenridge, Colorado did a sprint that we were able to help them with. The Twisted team sprinted in Boston. There was a Boston Intermediate workshop. Python Kansas City did, I believe, 2 weekends. We helped them out. Montreal Python's done a number of sprints since we started. They did a couple this year. The web test library, we were able to help them out with a sprint, with the grant that got the maintainer of WebTest to fly and take like 2 trains and a cab to get to the sprint and help them. I believe they released a new version and got a lot of stuff done. So it was really cool for that. A user group in Timisoara, Romania, PyCon Finland sprints were also helped out by this committee. And PyData NYC was a pandas and kind of PyData conference / workshop / sprint that happened in New York in, I believe it was November. And through the grant, we were able to get Ashish Laroya from San Francisco, who's also a part of the Open Hatch group, to fly to New York and help them get that situated. So the Sprints is big on trying to help as many groups as we can. We do that by funding up to $300 per event, and it's done by reimbursement. So if you got a group of 10 people that want to get together and hack on something, figure out how many pizzas you want to buy, how much spaghetti you want to buy, how many cans of soda you want to buy. Let us know, and we'll pencil you in, and then let us know at the end. Give us a little write-up. Let us know how much you spent. Give us receipts, and we'll get you your money. It works out really well. A lot of people are fans of it, but I think as Python has grown, I would love to see it used more, and I would love to see it used more throughout the world. A lot of the ones we end up getting are various cities in the U.S., and a lot of them are repeats. It would be great to see sprints kind of happening and funded by new areas, and try to get them to tell everyone else, hey, they helped us out, and see it grow like that. The Outreach and Education Committee also has funding as well, and they've put together a whole bunch of workshops. PyStar Philly was a kind of a branch of the Boston Python workshop. PDX Python did a workshop. That was another one of the Boston Python workshop on the road. PyCamp Argentina received a grant for 5 women to attend PyCamp, which is a pretty cool, it's an outdoor kind of hang out for the weekend and sprint / workshop / kind of be outside in Argentina. That's pretty cool. Python San Diego is a new user group that popped up a little bit after PyCon last year. Kendall Chang got that started, and they did 2 workshops last year to grow their community and get people involved. They went from 0 people to getting a meetup.com account set up to doing these workshops, and they've grown very nicely. And I'm glad the PSF has been able to help them get started and ramp up and keep growing. DIY Girls in Los Angeles did a workshop that we funded, and PyData NYC, again, as part of the one I mentioned earlier. Chicago Python workshop, and Indianapolis also did a Python workshop, both kind of based on the Boston Python workshop model. PyLadies Toronto started up and did a workshop. WATPy, the Waterloo, Ontario group, recently just did one, and they're actually going to do one, I believe it's next weekend. And Montreal Python workshop was also happening. Montreal is doing a ton of stuff. I think everyone's going to really enjoy PyCon in Montreal. It's a really good group up there. So that's a lot of the stuff that these committees are doing and putting out there and making sure it can happen. Another big thing that the PSF does is awards. We have a ton of people putting in a ton of work, doing really awesome stuff, and they're doing it for the good of Python. And as much as we can, we try to give back to these people that we find and try to make sure they know that their work is much appreciated. There's a couple things. We have community service awards. These are quarterly, typically given to 2 people a quarter. One of the community service award people was speaking right over here, Doug Hellman. If you're familiar with the Python module of the week and his book, he's very well appreciated by Python for putting that stuff on. The community service award comes with a check for $500 or a ticket to PyCon. So we want to make sure those people can feel rewarded for their significant efforts. Another award we do is the Frank Willison Memorial Award. This is actually an award given by O'Reilly, but it is recommended by the Python Software Foundation. Frank Willison was an editor at O'Reilly for a long time, and after he passed away, there was an award created in his honor. He was a big fan of Python. This is kind of it's an annual award. There's one recipient. It's given for outstanding contributions to the community throughout the year. The 2012 recipient was the conference chairman of PyCon, Jesse Noller, which is kind of funny because PyCon is such a huge thing, and he put so much effort into PyCon, but it was really only a very small part of everything that he did. He's kind of involved in a whole lot of stuff, so it was great to have him receive that award. Another award that we have is the Distinguished Service Award, which was created last year. If you didn't know John Hunter, he was a great man. He was the creator and maintainer of Matplotlib. Great plotting library, very powerful. Has a great story behind it if you have a chance to read it. He passed away due to cancer, a very quick, short battle, and was left behind a number of, I think it's 3 daughters and a wife, and it was a very unfortunate situation. But he was such a prolific contributor, not just to Matplotlib, but to science, math, he kicked ass. He did a lot for Python, and we wanted to recognize him. Unfortunately, after passing, that we created an award called this Distinguished Service Award, which is going to be given annually to people who offer sustained and exemplary contributions, who really go above and beyond and make sure Python is at the forefront of everything and really try to grow it. And so John was the inaugural recipient for 2012. That's an award that comes with a $5,000 check, so we presented that to his family. I was able to be at his memorial in Chicago and presenting we had a framed award presented to his family, and his wife was ecstatic about people from Python and the people that he was able to work with throughout time. They were just so happy that the Python community is so welcoming and so friendly, and so just happy to work with him on his projects and happy to use it. It was really a great thing to be able to give them to that, or that to them. Another thing the PSF does is try to advance Python. And again, that's Python, big P Python, the whole community. That's code, that's people, that's organizations, that's everything. A lot of this is kind of outreach. So this Outreach and Education Committee I had previously mentioned, there's funding through that. We also have just the fact that the Outreach Committee works with a lot of other organizations such as Pi Ladies, Women Who Code, stuff like that, and trying to make sure that they have the resources they need to grow and to get them involved in PyCon and to get them involved in putting on workshops and stuff like that. So very happy to work with them. We're also kicking around some ideas to help local communities better than we kind of have been. News about what the PSF does, like these committees and whatnot, kind of trickles through email, trickles through Twitter. People find out about it. But Sprints, for example, has been around for 2.5 or close to 3 years, I believe. I follow, I think it's 112 email lists by now through some of the press and publicity work I do for PyCon. So often some folder I'll check here and there and I'll see what people are up to. I see a lot of sprints that happen, and a lot of people, and I'll chime in, I'll say, hey, just next time you guys do a sprint, email sprints@python.org, put together a proposal, we'll buy you guys your pizza and beer. And people are like, whoa, how did I never hear about this? That's a problem we'd like to fix. And so something we're kind of kicking around is the idea of coming up with like a regional or user group representative. So the PSF would then, on the foundation end, have perhaps a working group or a committee that then works with these representatives to make sure we're funneling news to everybody and making sure everyone knows what's available, what resources are there, what people are there, and kind of include them in this same network and get them the funding they need. So no one should be in the dark about sprint funding or workshop funding or trademark stuff if they're having issues. We should be able to keep everyone connected. So that's something I'm hoping we can do in 2013, is to kind of build the network and make sure we're keeping everyone involved and in tune with growing Python. Infrastructure is another thing we are advancing. Recently, we moved all of the servers to the Oregon State University Open Source Lab. If you see anyone around, I've seen a couple guys with OSU, OSL t-shirts. Say thanks to them just in general for what they're doing. It's pretty cool. But they're also helping out. Python. We have some pretty beefy servers in there, pretty nice architecture going on. And with the recent hiring of our 2 part-time system administrators, really trying to make sure that's powerful, resilient, it's fast, it's doing good stuff. And we also have inside that kind of area is the website redesign. Hopefully you had a chance to check out the expo hall and see the Revolution Systems / Project Evolution kind of code booth. They had a big jungle theme. They had a demo of the new site up there, and they had it on an iPad, had a couple devices showing it. It's a really great project. We had a call for proposals several months ago. They won out. They've been working really hard on this. It's a really great website. We're hoping to start putting content in there now. A lot of the look and feel is there. Hoping to have that live fairly soon. Would be great to do that. I'm being told to stop, but I'm not going to stop. One more quick thing is that fundraising is a big part of the PSF. To do all these things and to give away all this money, obviously you have to be making some money. PyCon is the PSF's biggest fundraiser. It's the sole event that we put on. The PSF is behind it financially. Gives them a budget, make sure it happens. So what's good for PyCon is good for the PSF. The last couple of years we've had, if you've been here a couple times, you've seen significant growth. I think we were 2,300 last year. Even though we said 2,500, I think it's close to 2,600 because a little trickling in. Sponsors, as you've seen some of the sponsor lists, they're huge. So PSF is trying to help out and make sure we can do all this. So making sure we replenish the funds and make sure we can give them away nicely and have people do really cool stuff. Another fundraising thing is the sponsor members. They're organizations that contribute not through code and stuff like that and time. They do it through money, so we do that. We also have the associate membership, which is a non-voting member of the PSF, and they contribute also money, and they're able to we're hoping to build that situation up and give people something for their money in terms of T-shirts and whatnot. There are similar ideas with the Linux Foundation, but there's a lot of ways to help. And so my question is, can the PSF help you? And can you help the PSF? PSF at python.org is the gateway into the foundation. If we can help you right there, we'll help you right there. If not, we can put you in contact with the committees or people who can make sure you have what you need. Thanks. So, any questions?
So, yeah, if you please.
I really enjoyed the talk. Other than possibly becoming an associate member, if I want to get involved in the PSF, what is step one?
So the question was, for the video, if you want to get involved in the PSF, what is step one? Step one is perhaps just email psf@python.org and state kind of what your interests are, what you want to do. If you want to write code, we can certainly point you in the right direction. If these committees that I had mentioned, so sprints and outreach and stuff like that, they're PSF committees, but you don't have to be a PSF member to be on them. They are kind of run by the PSF. There's always a board member on each committee, so they have the pipeline to the board. But in the example of sprints, I was on the sprints committee for something like almost a year, I think, before I was in the PSF. It was something I just had heard about through Jesse Noller, and Carl Karsten, the video guy, kind of said, hey, yeah, that's something you could do. And there was a quick email connection, and I got involved. And I was able to help them email people and try to spread the word. So I would say just email psf@python.org and say what you want to do, and we'll take anyone we have. And just say your interest, and we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then let's thank the speaker once again. Thank you very much.